I think that movies are one of the best art forms a person can express themselves in, and there are many departments in which they can do so. These departments include editing, cinematography, sound, and others. But I think one of the more important ones is acting. So let's start off basic. What is acting? The book, The Art of Film Acting, a guide for actors and directors, states, "Good actors know that being is the essence of a believable performance. Being means that you totally accept the given circumstances that are aware of moment-to-moment reality. It means actually living in the reality of the scene. This just gives us an overall sense of how an actor has to prepare for their role. They can't think about acting, they just do." When advertisers are advertising a movie, they'll usually show the big actors that they got in that film. If they got Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie, they're going to highlight that they got Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie. And what do we know about Leonardo DiCaprio? We know that he's a great actor. But what makes him a great actor? It's how they prepare for those roles. Acting is one of those things that can make even some of the worst movies bearable. For example, The Room.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
The acting is horrendous. Actually, everything about the movie is horrendous. But why do people watch it? It's probably because of the acting. The acting by Tommy Wiseau is so preposterous that almost all of it is added in post.
Yeah, can I have a dozen red roses, please?
Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't know it was you. Here you go.
That's me. How much is it?
It'll be $18.
Here you go. Keep the change. Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
I wanted to look at some movies in which actors did an excellent job and won awards for their acting. These films include The Departed, Nightcrawler, Taxi Driver, and Schindler's List. So, let's get into it with The Departed. The Departed, directed by Martin Scorsese, stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson, and Matt Damon. In the film, we see Leonardo DiCaprio's character infiltrate the mob, led by Jack Nicholson's character. All the while, there's a rat feeding information to the mob, who is played by Matt Damon. To prepare for his role, Leonardo DiCaprio actually interviewed some local Boston residents.
I got to meet some guys from South Boston that were actually in Los Angeles where I live, spent some time with them, learned the history of this sort of underworld there, what the sort of South Boston gang world was like, what Boston was like, that it's really this sort of microcosm where everyone knows each other's business. It's really a small town, you know?
This is also a unique role for him. We don't typically see Leonardo DiCaprio playing a paranoid cop, scared that he's going to get killed 24/7. In films such as The Gangs of New York and Titanic, we see him play a brash young man who's super confident in himself and takes kind of a leader position. But in this film, he's not confident in himself. He plays about the polar opposite of this. And I think that really shows his diversity as an actor. On the other hand, Nicholson brought a whole new level of insanity to his character. He'd come in to shoot with different styles. Each day, he'd have a different level of insanity that he'd display in his role. So you never really knew what you'd get when you were filming with Jack Nicholson. Nicholson used a method called method acting, which our book states as they had to be the character before successfully playing the character, and Nicholson would constantly be playing his character on set. It wouldn't be himself usually. In an article written by John Hiscock, I actually found out that Jack Nicholson actually pulled a real gun on DiCaprio during the scene in which they're discussing the rat problem they're having.
You got something you wanna ask me?
And the look on DiCaprio's face is one of genuine fear, and Scorsese was not prepared for this either. But DiCaprio played really well in this moment and played it off like it was planned from the start. All of this was unscripted and both actors played it off just as it was. I didn't even know it wasn't scripted. I thought most of the scenes in this movie were scripted, but apparently I was wrong.
I like it.
And I think that that's what makes it so great. If I don't know that a scene is not scripted, I'd never know that. And I think that that's what makes this film's acting so genius. and it's no wonder that the film got awarded Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and Best Supporting Actor Mark Wahlberg at the Academy Awards that year. Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, directed by Dan Gilroy, really took it up a notch in his acting. To prepare for the role, he lost 30 pounds, and he actually studied night crawlers and went on ride-alongs with them to really get into character and know what they did on their day-to-day basis. In an interview with ABC News, he describes this.
There's a special type of personality that can do this job. You have to love the night.
Or hate the sun.
Or hate the sun, yeah. I actually found myself really disappointed when the sun would come up as I was playing this character.
What did you do to prepare for this role?
I wanted him to look like a coyote. And in order to do that, I had to look hungry and be hungry.
Like Nicholson and DiCaprio, he was really good at playing off moments that were unintended. During a scene in which his character is very upset and screaming at himself in the mirror, he slams it shut and the glass breaks, cutting his hand. You can't see it in the film, but it does happen, and he walks off. Apparently, he actually had to go to the ER after this and get stitches for a few hours. But you'd never know, he never breaks character in this moment. Even if the actor is harmed, if an actor can play it off like it's part of their character, I think that it just adds to the film and shows how insane his character really is and how far he really will go to get that perfect shot. Gyllenhaal truly does give off a chilling performance here, and the film definitely benefits from this. Next, we're going to move on to Taxi Driver, another Scorsese film on this list. Robert De Niro played a taxi driver in New York who is fed up with all the filth and scum on the streets and decides it's up to him to clean up the streets himself. De Niro actually, to prepare for this role, worked as a taxi driver in New York for about 2 weeks to get a feel for what being a taxi driver was actually like. He was in character the entire time too, might I add. De Niro also studied a lot of mental illness for this character and improvised a lot of scenes in the film, including the famous line,
"You talking to me? You talking to me?"
I also like that Robert De Niro's character constantly speaks to himself through a journal he's writing. We get to hear his inside thoughts and see how his character develops from a simple taxi driver to local hero in the moment in the course of about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Schindler's List, directed by Steven Spielberg, stars Liam Neeson playing Oskar Schindler in a true story about the horrible events of the Holocaust. To prepare for his role, Neeson read a lot of books on the Holocaust and read Schindler's List, written by Thomas Keneally, and which the movie was based off of. He also watched 2 documentaries from the 1970s with interviews with a then very old Schindler. Spielberg also recalls casting Neeson because he thought he captured the spirit of Schindler perfectly and also represented the German businessman very well. Neeson's moment at the very end of the film where he breaks down about not being able to save one more person gets me every time. You can see his transformation from a businessman who's just trying to make money off the war to a person who legitimately cares about the people and doesn't want to see them suffer anymore, so does anything he can to help save them. And it's in these small little quiet moments with his character that you can really see his transformation. In the end, acting is one of the few pillars of filmmaking that can set the tone, themes, and overall narrative of a film, and strong acting can really complement a film, whether that film ends up being good or bad. Actors like Robert De Niro, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jack Nicholson, who took their acting to the next level by method acting, really sell a performance, and you forget about the characters they've played in the past, and just get sucked into their performance. If you believe that the actor you're seeing on screen is a real person and not just being themselves, then I'd say they succeeded in their job.